Hello, everybody, and welcome to Busy Playing Something, Episode 8. My name is Sean, and I am your host for today. And I'm joined by, he seems to be sick right now, Joshua LaRosa. With your,
flu one.
The flu one? The one who flew over the cuckoo's nest and straight into bed because he's a little bit ill.
Oh, man, let me tell you, I saw it coming a mile away. Like, yesterday, I felt good all day. I was in the city. I was walking around in 10-degree weather. And then I got home and I'm like, throat feels a little funny. And then, classic Melbourne, like it's 10 degrees here during the day at the moment. It's cold, it's raining. And I woke up this morning and I'm like, yeah, and this is not good. Not good at all. But you know what? I'm still here. I still made the effort, so that's all that counts.
And you're doing the lemon and honey drink, or are you doing tea? Or are you doing coffee? What are you doing?
No, just doing tea. It's the I'm not much of a I only drink tea really. And besides coffee, like I don't do like the lemon herb or the honey and syrup or any of that stuff.
Ginger and ginseng, or
none of that. I just do a straight tea. And I'm a bit of a Naomi, like my wife, likes Lipton, like just straight Lipton black tea. And I refuse to drink that stuff because I'm like, you might as well just be drinking like ashtray water with milk. Like it's Dilma or nothing. If you're not Dilmering it, I don't know what you're doing. You know, Twining's not bad, a little too sweet. I find that the Twinings tea bag to be a little too sweet for my liking. And I feel like the Dilma tea bag's just the right amount.
See, I'm always trying different teas. So, like, I've got a selection of. At one stage, it was like all the fruity teas and that sort of stuff, and now I'm like, I want tea that actually tastes nice. And there was this like
real milk,
yeah, that sort of thing. And like, there was this sleepy time tea that I had, which was really nice, and I've run out of that now. Like your chamomile and that sort of stuff. And I was looking at this tea selection at the grocery store today. So not like a Coles or a Woolies. I'm talking like almost like a corner shop, like one of those like IGA, but not quite, like little vendors. And I was looking at their tea selection, and it's all like Dilma and Lipton. And then you have like this one odd brand that's probably in like one in every 20 stores, and nobody really buys it. And it's like $7 for like, 6 tea bags or something like that. And I'm like, okay, so I know tea is like one of the most popular drinks in the world behind water, but like, how expensive can tea really get?
I don't know. I feel like the people that are drinking like weird teas, and it's like there's people that drink like craft beers and things like that. I'm like, why are you overcomplicating?
Hey, I've literally got a purple drink here.
See,
what do you think this even is?
I don't know, like grape squash or something.
You're close. So this is. Do you know Little Fat Lamb?
No,
you don't know. Okay, you obviously had a very sheltered childhood growing up. I understand.
You're only learning this now.
I've known for a long time. But no, Little Fat Lamb is basically one of those. You can get one of those 1.25 liter little fat bottles. So 1.25 liters. Imagine that, like a full thing of Coke, right? For $8, and it's 8%.
Seems expensive.
$8 for 8% alcohol.
Oh, alcohol. Oh, it's an alcoholic drink.
It's an alcoholic drink, and this one is the Hubbly Bubbly, which is like a sour grape.
A hubba bubba.
Yeah. Well, that they've got the whole like picture thing and all that sort of stuff on it. And I have to tell you, it's amazing. I love it. It is great. It is like fizzy grape juice, except I know that it's 8%. And afterwards, I won't need a second glass. I'll be okay.
Nah, see, this goes back to everything that we've spoken about. It's consistency, right? We don't need to overcomplicate everything.
You're just like simple teas like Dilma, like simple drinks like water. And I'm like, yeah, what's this new fruity blend of bullshit that somebody's peddling for a couple of bucks a litre?
Josh is only drinking bourbon old fashions or red wine. That's it.
Red. And just red.
Yeah, just red. It depends on, what mood I'm in, right? If it's a red with dinner, I usually go Pinot Noir.
Oh, okay, so you do know the different types.
Yeah. I just, I didn't know this was an alcohol podcast, so I wasn't going to go into detail. But so that's usually the two.
Red
drinks.
And Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir, if I'm having it with the steak. Cab Sab, if I'm just having it on its own. and then bourbon old fashioned is my go-to drink.
So no
99% of the
Shiraz.
time.
Not feeling a
Shiraz is
Shiraz.
a bit too sweet and bubbly for me.
Yeah, okay. I don't mind the label. I just like what's in it. See, I'm very open to those sorts of things.
Those listening, or no, for those watching, you can watch me wipe my nose throughout the podcast. So that's fantastic. I'll try to mute as much as I can.
Yeah, well, you are sick. You did mention that, but that's okay. I'll try and carry the conversation while you're busy doing whatever it is you're doing.
Busy doing something.
Yeah, you're busy doing something. Well, we are busy playing something. And we have been playing some games over the last week or so, but we'll get to that a little bit later. I want to talk about a platform that we both used. I think I still currently use. I'm not sure if you still use it. And this is Game Pass, which has been in the news all week. Yet again. I don't know. It feels like we're talking about Game Pass at least every week, maybe every 2 weeks. It just seems to be popping up into the conversation all the time. But we've just recently had some changes to the pricing structure and all that for Game Pass. Now, funnily enough, when Josh and I were discussing what we were talking about for last week, and we had a really good idea, and if you haven't checked out last week's episode where we talked about the difference in how we played games in our 20s to now in our 30s, it was actually a really good conversation. And afterwards, we're like, look, that was a really good conversation. I feel like we covered a lot of topics, and there's a lot there to really dissect and discuss. Man, it's been a pretty quiet week in the news. And then, literally the next day, it was not quiet in the news. And this was one of the first things that popped up, which was a change to the Game Pass structure. So, gone is the days of just Game Pass and then Game Pass Ultimate or Game Pass for PC. We now have another tier in there that doesn't have day one games. And the pricing has all changed a little bit. Look, Josh, I think I'll ask you as someone who will jump onto Game Pass when they need to, and then if they're not playing any games, you'll jump off. So it's kind of like a 1 month at a time situation. Looking at the changes that have been made, which you can find on the Xbox website and literally everywhere else, if you can find one in layman's terms, what was your initial reaction to these sorts of changes? Like, I'm going to say that they were expected because I think we've both been talking for a while that Game Pass needed to go up in price at some stage. Not because it needed to, but because it was going to.
It was going to, yeah.
But what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, the pricing change was not a surprise. I think we were all, like you said, we were expecting it, especially with Call of Duty coming later this year. They needed to get everything lined up and ready to go for when that launches. I think the big surprise for me was the recalibration of the tiers, right? So, in short, basically what's happened is the console Game Pass subscription tier is basically being sunsetted, and then it's being replaced with something called Game Pass Standard. The naming of these things is ridiculous. So, let's step back. So, the bottom tier now is what was Games with Gold is now Game Pass Core, right? And that's basically multiplayer access and a small selection of games. Then you move to Game Pass Standard, which includes multiplayer and the back catalog of Xbox Game Pass games, right? Includes multiplayer as well, but now does not include day and date Game Pass releases for Xbox first party.
Yep.
So this tier, the standard tier, is basically replacing the console tier, right? So if you're a current console Game Pass console subscriber, I think they're allowing you to keep your subscription for a period of time.
Yeah,
but
up to
new
13
users
months,
moving forward, new users moving forward, it's either going to be core, standard, and then into ultimate, right? So I think that was the biggest surprise for me because I think, play it on Game Pass or day and date with Game Pass has been the messaging since 2018. It's kind of been the one, I think keeping Xbox afloat during those early, 2018, 2019 quiet years, right? Before all the acquisitions, it was like, well, at least I know I'm getting their games day and date on a subscription service. So now that's changing a little bit, right? Like Ultimate's still there and Ultimate did get a price increase as well. But now the messaging becomes a little bit more muddled, right? Because it's now, I guess, play it on Game Pass Ultimate, right? It's no longer just play it on Game Pass. So I think that was something I wanted to focus on, like when I was kind of writing this up, was this is a real kind of meaningful change to the subscription model. In fact, it's actually more closer now to the PlayStation subscription model and we all hated it when that happened, right? Essential, extra, and premium, or deluxe here in Australia. Like, that was confusing. Well, this is just as confusing. And now, in a reverse of usually what happens, where PlayStation usually copies what works for Xbox, Xbox, who introduced Game Pass, is now kind of going backwards a little bit on their lower tiers and going to more of a back catalog type subscription service for their console users anyway, in standard, right? And then reserving day and date to Ultimate. So, in short, ultimately they want to push as many people to Ultimate as possible. That's the highest tier, the most expensive tier. They've got a price increase. I think when they released some of the information during the FTC Activision, hubbub, I think there was like 80% of console users were on Ultimate anyway. So basically, their base audience is already on Ultimate. Where this becomes a little tricky and a little more hard of a sell is new subscribers moving forward, or new console owners basically need to go from what they were paying before, which was like $10, $13 a month, to what, $22? It's a pretty big jump, right? It's a different sell per month. So I don't know about you, but that was probably the big shock, right? The removing of day and date from at least 2 out of the 3 tiers now. That's a pretty big shake up in my eyes.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I feel like I'm taking this from a storm in a teacup perspective, because at the end of the day, as you said, if 80% of subscribers are subscribed to Ultimate, well, they're probably there for things like your xCloud gaming. They're probably there for your day one games. They're not going to necessarily downgrade to the standard. I don't think this is aimed at them. I think this is aimed at a different audience, where if you were to get Xbox, well, you have the choice where you can get that basic standard, which has that library of games, and so you can just get in and go, and you've got the online gaming and Xbox Gold and that sort of stuff. Or if you want to play those brand new games, then you join 80% of the subscribers and you go for Ultimate. I think it's not about the people who are already subscribed. I think this is a change to get new subscribers. And it's sort of like a similar thing to PlayStation.
Do you think that this is more appealing for new subscribers though? Like,
yes.
Really? So I think it's the opposite. I think, like, in my eyes, before this change, the appeal was for $13 a month, you get new day and date games. Now it's like, well, it's $22. It's another $10 a month more than it was a month ago. And in the past, Xbox Game Pass for console didn't include multiplayer, right? So the only way you could get day and date games and get multiplayer is to go to Ultimate, unless you're a weirdo and then have Game Pass console and then also subscribe to Game Pass Core, right?
Which you're paying way too much, yeah.
Which you're paying more for. So that's where Ultimate made sense. But if you were a person maybe like how I would have been, where I'm just playing single player type games, console Game Pass would have been an easy sell. Younger audiences who aren't playing online, where their parents are just giving them the subscription, $10, $13 a month, is fair, which is now, what was it now, $22.95 Australian a month, or $20 US.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more of a jump, and I think it now dilutes the offering in terms of, like, having to explain it. Like before, it's like, just get Game Pass. It doesn't matter what tier you're on, besides Core, which is Xbox Gold. Any tier, console, PC, or Ultimate, will give you Xbox day and date games. That's been the messaging, that's been the sell, the pitch since 2018. Now, it becomes a little bit more confusing, because now a new person picks up an Xbox, and then you're in the retail job trying to explain to mum, I heard there's this Game Pass thing, and it's like, well, the console one doesn't exist anymore. It's actually standard. Okay, so standard's like the standard one, right? Comes with the game. Well, no, you actually need to be Ultimate to get the day and date stuff.
I don't think the conversation isn't that hard, really, from the way I see it, and the way that I would explain it for a prospective buyer of an Xbox console, and then you're looking at your Game Pass options. It's like, okay, you can get Game Pass Core, and that has a selection of games that you can get access to. However, if you want to get the brand new games as well, you get Ultimate. And so you've got that selection of games, and you've also got those new releases day one. You don't have to go out and buy them individually.
Doesn't that fundamentally change
no, because
the service?
Well, not necessarily, because are they coming in to buy a console? And this is most likely parents buying it for their kids is the people that I'm usually, speaking to. Are you buying this for your kids to give them a selection of games, or are you buying the console to get the brand new game that they want? And most of the time, it's not about that. You're not buying a brand new console for the brand new game. That's nice to have. But for kids and all that, they don't care. Like, they want to be able to play games. They want to be able to play, like, you start off with your Minecraft or your FIFA, like that sort of stuff. I'm not saying those specifically, but that's where I see Game Pass Standard or Game Pass Core coming into that conversation, because you're basically saying, hey, look, here's your Netflix subscription, which has all your Netflix, or like all the stuff on there, but anything that's been released in the last 3 to 6 months, that may not be over there. You can, however, upgrade it and pay a little bit extra to get those. Now, have we been told how long a game would need to be on Ultimate after release before coming to Core?
So apparently it's 6 to 12 months, but it's also, they love using this term, case by case.
Yeah.
And see, for me, I disagree. I think that what you've just said makes sense, right? Like, in terms of, it's simple. You want the day and date, you go Ultimate. If you want back catalog, go here.
Yeah.
That's fine, makes sense. But that doesn't also mean that what you just explained is what the product has been for the last 6 years. Like, that's a PlayStation Plus product now, where it's like the back catalog, past games, multiplayer.
Yeah, well,
that's Ultimate kind of sits on its own thing, but to me, I just kind of see it as like, this is a complete change to the model. Whether it affects me, you, or whatever, or if it's easy to sell it or explain it, because it's not that confusing. No. 3 tiers. You want day and date, you go Ultimate. But this is a change to it, right? And if I was a console Game Pass subscriber that was paying $13.99 or $10 a month or whatever it was to play day and date, and now I have to pay $22, I think that's worth thinking about, at least, right? That's a big jump. That's nearly double what you were paying a month ago.
Well, what?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Well, if you're paying,
Ultimate's $15.99, $15.95.
So Ultimate
is going up to $22.95. So it's an extra $7.
Yeah. So nearly double what you're paying before.
But even then, like, you've got to think, okay, let's take a step back. So forget about what the Game Pass message has been since 2018, because we've always said it's not sustainable, yeah? Forget about that message. Let's think about where it is now and where they're looking at going future-wise. Now, they have to raise prices because economy, I don't know, throw some words in there. They need to raise prices. So if they raise Ultimate up, so in Australian-wise, from your $15.95 to your $22.95, and your Game Pass Standard, as it was, without any changes, say, and that went from your $13 a month, do equivalency, maybe it goes up to $17.95. Yeah? So in terms of where Xbox is coming from, they would then say, okay, well, what's the value of having people go from that middle tier to the higher tier, and is it worth it to be able to either lower the price of that middle tier, but needing to take away some sort of, extra or perk, and would that be beneficial to them, or would it be beneficial to have day and date on there? But the thing is, you're not going to get the subscribers. If I'm looking at that and saying, okay, well, I can pay Standard at $17.95. I was paying Ultimate at $15.95. I can pay Standard at $17.95 or something like that. But the thing is, that's Standard. That means that I don't get Game Pass on PC. Yes. Is that a big enough of a loss where then I would say, okay, I need to pay that extra $5 a month? Now, for someone like myself, that'd be significant enough for me to make that trade. For a lot of people, it's not going to be enough. So Xbox has to think from, okay, so how do we get and incentivize people to go from that middle tier to that upper tier? PC, yep, okay, that's probably a small percentage. Like, let's say if 80% are Ultimate, maybe 30% of people are playing on PC. Really, like most people are playing it on console because that's what it's
No,
made for.
it's 80. So my understanding is 80. Well, this is from 2021, so
Yeah,
or 22. Sorry,
yeah, it's changed. Yeah.
80% of console players
Okay,
are already on Ultimate.
all right.
But I think what they're saying is that, like, how do I
Yeah,
put this? I think the focus is now shifted, right? Like, the price that it was before was great value,
yeah,
but I think there is an argument to say, well, hold on, like, I'm an Xbox console owner. I've invested $800 in this box, and the PC Game Pass person is still paying that $13 per month
yep,
and still getting day and date. So
yep.
your most loyal base that buy the console is now getting a lesser Game Pass
Well,
or paying
PC
more.
PC is already getting a lesser Game Pass anyway. They don't have the same catalog as console.
No, they don't. And the PC version is worse than the console one. But relatively speaking, most of the new stuff, like all the stuff that's coming, will be PC and console anyway. Like there was
Yeah.
that bit of a weird period where there was some PC exclusive stuff and then there was some console. I feel like that's kind of been
Well,
ironed
they're
out
still
now.
doing it. You can still see the updates, and it might be like, oh, these ones are coming to console and PC, or these ones are coming to PC, or these ones are coming to console. Like they're still doing those weekly updates.
They are, and I think it just goes back to the messaging, right? Like, like there was a marketing campaign last week about the Fire Stick, right? Like, you don't need an Xbox to play an Xbox, and now you could play everything day and date on PC and pay $10 a month cheaper. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's kind of like incentivizing. For me, that's what I was going to say. For me, this seems like a move to fortify before Call of Duty comes out, right? Because there was the risk, and I think this is a real risk because I know many people that do it, including myself, and we spoke about it before, that you could have a user who buys Call of Duty every year, right? Just relative. This is
yeah,
example: person A buys Call of Duty every year. They pay. Let's just talk American because it's just easier. $70 to buy the game every year. So Xbox would have got 100% of those sales if they brought it on Xbox, right? So $70. Now the risk becomes: hold on, what if they paid back before the price change? What if they just had Xbox Game Pass console for $13, whatever it was, subscribed for a month, played Call of Duty, then bounced?
yeah.
So I think maybe this could be a move to go, well, if you're going to do that, as in if you're going to just subscribe for a month and then bounce, you have to do it at the highest tier possible, unless you're on PC, to get day and date. I completely get it. I understand all
Yeah.
that. I think my angle in this discussion is more that this isn't the same product anymore. Like Xbox Game Pass console, which is now standard, is now PlayStation Plus Extra. Am I right? Like it's a back catalog of games with multiplayer access,
Yeah.
and new stuff will come to it at some point down the track.
Yeah, but what's the negative?
It wasn't that 6 weeks ago or a month ago,
Yeah,
a week ago. It was
but that's
before I was getting day and date.
I feel like it's, and this is kind of part of the argument of, Xbox needed to do something with Game Pass because it wasn't sustainable, and now they're trying to make it so that way it is sustainable in a sense where, yeah, when you're capturing subscribers, you're capturing them for more than a month at a time. Like you want to get them in, and now we're saying, oh no, that's a bad idea. You should go back to what you had.
No, no. For me, like if
Hello,
and
you.
this might not make sense, I would honestly just have Ultimate be the product and just simplify it and be
But
like, well, it's X amount. Like most of your people are on Ultimate anyway on console.
yeah, I think if you do that though, you're going to exclude enough people, because the thing is, if you say, okay, well, we've only got Ultimate as the offering, and let's say, that's 23 Australian dollars for the month, you're most likely not going to have continuous subscribers. If anything, they'll come on for a month, bounce, and then they'll wait 6 months, come on for a month, bounce. And that's how it's going to be. Like at the moment, that's what people do with like Disney and stuff when it's too
Oh,
expensive.
I do that now. Like we got
Yeah.
we're watching The Boys on Prime, and after that we want to watch House of the Dragon on HBO. So I'm like, well, we're not going to sign up for both. We're only watching one at a time. Once that's done, we'll unsubscribe and go there. And I think people are wising up to that, like just
Month at a
across the
time.
board with subscriptions across the board. I'm not even just talking about games. I'm talking about music, movies, everything, right? There was a time where we had here Netflix, Prime, HBO, Disney Plus, blah, 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 blah. And then now I think people have become a bit more like, well, hold on, $10, $12 times 5 or 6 different subscriptions adds up pretty quickly, right? So I get that. So I think, again, this kind of goes back to them maybe fortifying the saying, well, this is going to happen anyway. We can't help it, right? This is just the nature of it. But if you're going to do it, you have to pay at the highest tier possible to access it. Again, I've always been the sustainability guy for this product anyway, and I've always stood on that ground. I just never thought they would remove it from 2 out of the 3 console tiers, right? Like
the day and date.
The day and date. I think that to me, I'm saying that like this is non-business Josh. Business Josh totally gets it because he's been saying it for 4 years.
It's in 2 of the 3.
Sorry, technically it's in 2 of the 4, right? It's on PC and Ultimate and not on Core and Standard. But I mean on the console lineage.
Standard is Core, though.
No. See? That's where it's confusing. Core is Xbox Live. Standard replaces console and Ultimate is Ultimate. Okay. So there is just Core, which is just multiplayer.
That's just Xbox Gold.
Like 10 or 15 games. Right?
No, that's right.
Console Standard is the back catalogue. So that's what I mean, though. So and we're the most informed people, like we is in the royal we.
Yeah.
And we're still getting it right.
I don't even consider like Core, like the lowest tier. I don't even consider that as part of like Game Pass, really, because people aren't going to be purchasing that, really. Like, unless you're buying your Call of Duty every year or your FIFA every year, and you just need Xbox to like online to be able to play it, then that's probably the way to go because that's your Xbox Gold subscription.
Yeah, it's just to me like it's just it muddles the message a little bit, right? I just never thought they would do it. Like Business Josh gets it. Business Josh would do the same thing.
Consumer Josh is mad.
Consumer Josh is just like, well, this. It's not that I'm mad. I just want to point out the fact that what has happened is a complete change to the promise, right? For people who were on console, Game Pass. And I think there's also something to say, and this is just out of, like, I feel bad for some of these console people. Like, Xbox has basically had a marketing campaign saying you don't need the console.
Yeah.
Whilst rumors are going around that they're multi-plat and releasing their games everywhere, then they get rid of the console tier completely and say, well, if you're playing on PC, you get these games as well, and it's cheaper, and you don't have to pay for multiplayer.
They're all in on Game Pass. They're all in on Game Pass.
I don't know. I've flipped on this. I think they were for the longest time prior to Activision. Once they got Activision's book, I think they kind of looked at it and said, hold on, we can make much more money selling these games than we can getting these into a subscription. Like they had in their targets, right, to get to 100 million subscribers by 2027. That was what was leaked in their FTC thing, right? We're now basically the end of most of the way through 2024.
We're halfway
through.
The
last updated number was 30-ish million, and that included the Xbox Live Gold people that moved over to Game Pass Core. So Game Pass has floated around 25 million subscribers for literally years. Starfield, which is probably going to be their biggest pop besides maybe Call of Duty or a Halo or something like that, apparently only increased subscribers by like 1%. Yeah. So I think they've kind of looked at the Activision book and said, hold on, this machine is working, right? Like as is on its own and making countless amounts of money. We risk ruining that machine by just
to focus on Game Pass.
Yeah, by just doing that. So I think there was a world where it was like console, Game Pass, and then the strategy became Game Pass, and then the strategy became, oh, hold on, we can't just rely on Game Pass. We also need to make sure these games are selling. And that's where the multi-platform approach comes in. And that is the differentiator, where they could use PlayStation and everyone else to subsidize the service and say, as much as we're not selling games on our platform, we're making games more broadly available, and they're selling everywhere else that doesn't have Game Pass, and we can supplement that.
Yep.
So I would have 2-3 years ago said Game Pass was the strategy. I actually have now come around on that, and I think Microsoft has, and said we can't, like, it isn't working. Like, if Call of Duty comes out in November and Game Pass subscribers doesn't grow by the tens of millions, what like, and I ask you, like, what other game can do it that isn't Call of Duty, right? The best selling game year in, year out for the last 10 years. If that can't move the needle.
Oh, maybe Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah, but that's never going to happen, right? Never going to happen. So, like, I actually think the strategy is forcefully being shifted. Not because of, like, Satya Nadella. I think it's coming from Phil Spencer too. I think it's just saying, well, we tried this. It's out there. Tens of millions of people are enjoying it.
It's a good product. However,
it's a great product.
Not the thing that's going to carry us forward.
It's not going to, and they might have just realized, hold on, if we, they're going to think, right, they sell a game on PlayStation, they only get 70% of the rip, right? Not the full 100% if they sold it on Xbox, right? Because they own it and all that. But they need to also factor in the fact that they have to develop a hardware, they have to have an online store, they have to house all these games, they have to have support people. There's a lot of work. Like, they might just go, you know what? It is so much easier if we just make this hardware. We don't sell very well in Europe. We don't sell very well in Japan. It will sell its 25, 30 million copies, the console itself, up to 40 million. It is what it is. But if we just simply publish everywhere and use Game Pass to help spread the message of the games, we will make much more money than we would if we kept everything closed.
It still doesn't.
So I think, go.
I was going to say that still doesn't mean that money's going to funnel back into Game Pass and keep that, like, anywhere close to sustainable as well.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I think, like, every subscription service has its number, right? Like, Netflix wasn't profitable for years, but they got to a point based on pure volume of subscribers, like the 250 million subscribers that they had at one point. They just got to that point where there's that many subscribers that we are now in the profit. Like Amazon, even Amazon is the service, right? In terms of the website, that wasn't profitable for years, but now so many people buy on Amazon, it got to a point that it became profitable. If Game Pass had 100 million subscribers, we probably wouldn't be having the is it sustainable discussion. But at 30 million subscribers, when you've got games that are costing $200-300 million to make, Call of Duty literally requires thousands of developers year in, year out to make. It completely changes the value, right? So going back to Game Pass, I think that this change in pricing was always going to happen, but I do stand on the ground that removing games day and date from some of the tiers, whilst financially and business Josh gets it, and in fact, it's been what Josh has been saying, it's more that it does change the messaging. And, like, you think back at the Xbox update in February, right? Was that February, March, April, whatever it was? Jesus, how quick has this year gone? And that was the whole, just 4 games thing. They reiterated there that what does all this mean for Xbox players? It means day and date in Game Pass. The Sarah Bond interview where she kind of freaked out on stage where they asked her about Tango. She reiterated what it means to be an Xbox player is the service and getting your games day and date. That's still true, but it is a different quote today than it was a week ago. I'll leave it at that.
Well, like, Xbox isn't going to get to that 250 million like your Netflix as well. Like that, the series, for example, so both the S and X combined at the moment, total sales from February 2024, it was 27.7 million units.
Yeah, and most of those are Series S consoles too.
Yep. And to put that in perspective, like, there was 86 million Xbox 360s.
Yeah.
Which was the height of Xbox.
Yeah.
So the fact that you've got less than 30 million units out there, you've got 30 million subscribers, and so that puts you just under just over 2 million on PC.
Well, that's the thing. It's hard to track. So
Yeah, it's hard.
they've
We're
said they've
making
seen double.
guesses here.
Yeah, they've seen double-digit growth in PC. So what I think's happened ultimately, they've gotten to a point where like our console is maxed out, right? Our Game Pass subscribers on console is
Nearly everyone.
not changing relatively, right?
Yeah.
It's just stagnant, right? So and 80% of those people are already on Ultimate, and we're not really selling more consoles. So really, this effect is only a price increase for 80% of those people that are on Game Pass console.
Really, this is a PC-driven price increase.
PC is the growth area for them, in which they've said, and that is probably why they've kept PC Game Pass a thing with day and date games.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you console guys have had it good for a while now. We've gotten all the value we can. We're not growing in that space. PC still is, and I think it's more competitive. Like, you think the console market's more competitive. There are people who will pay for a game that's free just so they can play it on and buy it on Steam, as opposed to someone else's browser, right? Or whatever.
I keep looking at Sea of Thieves on Steam. When it gets down to $25, I'm like, oh, I could do that, even though I don't even know if it's cross-play. Or I know it's cross-play, but I don't even know if like my progress will move over from Xbox. I don't know any of that, but I'm looking at that price on PC, and I'm like, oh, I know I've got it on Game Pass, but I could have it on Steam. I could have it on PC.
Exactly. So that is probably why they're like, we need to keep this here because we still need a fight in this space. That's probably my thoughts on it. Like, what about you? You're like, does this change anything that the price increase to you? Like, what has it gone from $15 to $23 now?
Basically
so
$16. Yeah, $16 to $23 basically. Look, I've done a big look at my subscription services over the last 6 months or so after buying a place, and looking at where exactly am I getting value. And so even with your things like your Netflix and that sort of stuff, like I'm here and there, like maybe a month here of Netflix, and then I'll watch whatever's on my watch list, and then I'll like turn it off. And same with Disney Plus. I think Commonwealth Bank had a 6-month free thing, so I was able to jump on that. It's like cool. I'll be able to watch The Acolyte and other shitty things as well as other good things. But in terms of Game Pass, I don't know. I feel like Game Pass I'm always constantly buying because there's always going to be a game on there that, I know I can jump into at any time. If there's like a major release every month, then that works for me. The PlayStation 1 is the interesting one. So the PlayStation 1 I don't really use. Like at the moment, I am buying PlayStation games I've found, or I'm getting the free games and I'm downloading those. But the thing is, you need to keep your subscription in order to play those. Yeah. So now I'm in that position where it's like I've got a couple of games and I can play them, but some of these other ones that are coming through PlayStation Plus, it's like, oh, I could play that for a little bit, but in terms of when I look at value, I still look at it as a yearly subscription rather than a monthly subscription. And I think that's a mindset that a lot of people are in. Like your Game Pass, your Ultimate, $15.95. So that's about $194, $196 a year. Now it's going up to $23 a month. So you times that by 12 and you're looking at 200 and something. I think it's like $250, maybe more.
Which is like 2 and a bit games full price.
And that's kind of my justification. As much as I could cancel it and then wait until, Flintlock comes out, or like wait until these games come out and maybe only pay for it for 3 months over the year. I'm looking at as so in terms of an investment, if I was to buy these games like individually, like I treat it like that rather than, am I going to get a month out of this? Like, if Witcher 3 is on Game Pass, I'm probably going to get more than 120 hours in that. That's probably going to be stretched over 6 months. So is it better to buy the game individually or have it on Game Pass? Like Witcher 3, you buy the game individually because right now it's like $20. But for a brand new game, well, that's where it becomes a little bit, different. And that's kind of the internal question that I've got with these sorts of gaming subscriptions. Like even, my Pokemon Home, that renewed last week. It's like $25 for the year. But that's so I can move Pokemon between the different games, all using like an app. And I'm like, well, I use that maybe once or twice a year. However, would I pay it? Like, would I want to go through that process and pay the $8 for that month or whatever it is, or do I just pay the $25 for the year and I know I've got that there up my sleeve? And
Yeah.
I think that's a mindset that we're slowly breaking, where we're, instead of starting to look at these as annual subscriptions, which they're all trying to sell. Like,
Yeah, but
even
it's funny, Xbox don't do it, right? You can't buy
no,
years.
no, you can't.
Yeah. Always
Like,
felt that was weird.
you can stack them. Like, it used to be. So before Game Pass Ultimate really made their push, and the day one like push over the last few years. So before the series, there were like 6 month, 12 month Game Pass that you could
Right,
look
okay.
at. And I'm pretty sure that, because after the price changes on those code websites where you can purchase like download codes, Xbox Game Pass is number one.
Oh yeah. How many
It's
people like got the $1 a month?
100%. But that's the thing. It's because it's stackable. And so if you can only stack up to 13 months as well right now using prepaid cards. And so if
Yeah.
you get, and now because they only do it monthly, if you get those prepaid cards now, so for Ultimate, they're $15.95. So I'll be saving $7, if I bought
a month,
12
yeah.
months worth now. But the thing is, there will be that time where you won't be able to add them on. So now I'm like, okay, well, do I effectively pay for a year's membership now at the cheaper price, put those codes in, and I'm covered for another year, and then take stock? Or do I say, look, maybe it's better if I just cancel it after, the end, like when it hits September, when the price increase goes up, and then I'll only put it on for like a November or an October or something when a big game comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I feel like it's not up to the consumer to like, you do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Like I subscribed when I played Hellblade, and I finished it that quickly. They actually gave me a full refund back, right? Like I didn't feel bad at all. I'm like, that's the rules. That's the program that you've
Your Steam
put
is
together.
2 hours. Like if you play a game for less than 2 hours and you request a refund, they'll refund it to you. That's where that came from, yeah?
No,
It came from BioShock Infinite.
right?
So in so here you go. Here's a little story, little tangent. So in BioShock Infinite, at the start of the game, when you're entering Columbia, so the area, like the place in the clouds,
City, yeah.
the city, you've got to get baptized to enter.
Ah, yes, I do remember this. Yeah,
And
that
there was
became
a player who said, it's against my religion to get baptized. I can't do it. I can't actually play this game because I can't get baptized and enter the world of Columbia. So I went to Steam. Steam didn't have a refund policy at the time. And we're talking like the mid-teens sort of thing.
Yeah, 2011.
Oh, yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
Let me have a look.
It was definitely like after, it was about 2010 to around that time.
2013.
13.
Okay,
There we go. Around that time. And so that's when Steam implemented the refund policy, where for 2 hours and you can request a refund. Now, I think the 2 hours is a little bit lenient depending on the game.
Yeah.
Because if there's an update that absolutely breaks the game, you can apply for a refund. But yeah, it was. I thought that was really interesting. But Xbox, in terms of Game Pass, like it's good to hear that you can play an 8-hour game effectively and then just get your refund, and that instead of your 30 days, that works out. But
yeah.
we're still getting away from the fact that these are costing more. Are people going to be purchasing Game Pass for $23 a month and having it for 3-4 months? Like 4 months is still $92 or whatever it is.
I was going to say, I think all this does, like if I was an active Game Pass person, just makes you think about it that little bit more.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if it was at, $10, $15, you'd probably just let it lapse and you're in and out and you play it whenever you need to. But I think now it's probably going to be a bit more of a like, I still like, definitely the value's still there. I'm not debating that, but it's probably more of a, do I need to keep it this month? Right? Or do I just wait until Indiana Jones or whatever comes out? Like, I think it's a value piece if you're using it, but if it's the primary way you play games, man, it's value.
Yeah,
it's
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like PlayStation Plus Extra, right? Like, I think there's like 900 games on there, right? And it's a cheaper service. I mean,
you can pay it yearly as well.
You pay it yearly, and it gives you access to Last of Us and all the really good PS4 exclusives, and some of the PS5 stuff. Like if that's the primary way you play, like the subscription service model is great. And like for me, like I've always said, I think subscription is great for back catalog. I think it makes perfect sense. Games don't sell after they've been out for 2-3 months.
Then Game Pass Standard is perfect for you.
Yeah, yeah. It probably would be if it was
If it had
maybe
day
not
and
me
date.
because I buy games anyway. Like I
Yeah.
play new stuff, so it wouldn't make
But
sense.
that's the thing.
Ultimate would make sense.
But you would buy new stuff, and you would have the ability to play the old stuff. So
Yeah.
to me, that says, well, Game Pass Standard works for you because it is that backwards library of all the previous games. But when that new game comes out, instead of having it on Game Pass and playing it for a month or whatever, you go out and buy that. If PlayStation had that, I'm sure you'd be happy.
Well, they do. They kind of have that, but I don't. Like, I've got PlayStation Plus,
Extra deluxe.
Essential.
Essential?
I just have the multiplayer
Base
stuff, right?
Yeah, the base one. Yeah.
And then, like, for me, I'll rather buy the PS2 classics as they come out. Hopefully, when we get PS3, I'll do that. Like, I'll just pick and choose what I want to play and do it that way. But then, that's me, right?
Well,
like,
yeah.
it wouldn't make sense if I was, like, the biggest PlayStation Plus guy, and then, on here, I'm like, oh, subscription models. It's just not the way I play games.
Well, you're very a la carte. You do have, like, and we've spoken about this before, especially last week. You have your types of games that you play. Whereas for me, I would look at a selection of games and say, oh, that one looks interesting. Little gator thing. Yeah, I'll give that little gator game. I'll play that. Like I'm more scattergun approach in terms of what I'm playing. If it's available, I'm more likely to give it a go.
And I think I'd argue most people are more like me, though. Like, in the sense that, like, TV shows and movies are a lot more passive, right? Like, if you were to try a different genre of movie, it's not involving much more than sitting there and watching it, right? But, like, if you're a Call of Duty player and then there's a little JRPG on the service, that's a completely different thing, right?
That's an investment of time. Instead of, like, spending 20 minutes in a film and saying this isn't for me, you're now saying, well, do I put like 10, 20 hours in to see if it's right for me?
Yeah, and it's a completely different play style too. So that's what that all goes back to, like, what I've always said. It's just, I don't think people play games like they watch movies and listen to music. Just because it's an entertainment product that has a service, I think it's completely different, right? Like, but you've always been that person. So it doesn't look at the backlog, right? Like, look at everything that you've got going on. That's always been your thing.
I've even got my 3DS here, which I've gone back to, like, play all the old games. I'm playing through Pokemon Yellow at the moment. It's fantastic. I've played it through before, but
that's always been your thing. But I feel like most people buy 2 or 3 games and that's all they play all year.
Yeah.
Then there's the hardcore base that play all the new stuff that, like, I don't think most people don't play more than one game at once. Maybe 2, maybe 3 if you're, like, got, like, your Destiny in the background, but then you also play this and you also play. Most people don't do I'll play 20 minutes here, I'll do 10 minutes here, I'll try this and see what I feel. Like, I don't think that's relatively what people do. But anyway, that's been my
all right. Well,
rant.
Okay, I've got one more question just to kind of, like, wrap up the whole Game Pass changes, and we've spoken a little bit about PlayStation Plus and kind of what their tiers are now, because they are very similar. Do you think that Game Pass still offers, like, I know we said it still offers value, but in comparison to PlayStation Plus and what they offer, where do you think they now sit? So we've got 4 tiers for Xbox Game Pass. We've got 3 tiers for PlayStation Plus. So from an Australian point of view, so we get deluxe. We don't get premium. So there's a few, like, PS3 stuff we don't get and all that sort of stuff. Do you think that they are now more comparable than ever? Or do you think that basically the difference, which is Game Pass Ultimate, is enough of a difference to say that Game Pass is for want of a better term, a superior service?
I think they have analogs to each other now where they never did. So that's why I said, like, I was shocked that they're removing day and date from certain tiers. It's because, like, now what they've kind of done is taken the one thing that really did make them different and kind of aligned it to what is happening elsewhere besides Ultimate. So, like, Essential is core. Extra is standard Game Pass. And then deluxe or premium is different to Game Pass Ultimate. In terms of value, I think like the baseline core essential argument, I think they wash out, right? Because it's relatively the same thing. It's multiplayer, and then
a little bit.
It's interesting then when you get to extra, and then you look at Xbox Game Pass Standard. So extra, I just went on EB Games website, right? You can get 12 months of PlayStation Extra for $170, right?
Yep.
So 170 divided by 12 is $14 a month, right? If we look at Game Pass Standard, it would be priced relatively the same, $14.99 per month, right?
Yep. And
actually,
also,
no, that's $14.99 American.
US. Yeah, so it'd be about, I reckon it'd be about $18.
$18, $19, right? So
and
around about that.
PC Game Pass is 14.
Yes. So if that's 14, you're probably looking at about 16-ish, $17 a month for standard in the Australian calculator, right? Because if we're saying $11.99 US is $14 Australian, what would $15 US be? $18, $19?
So you're saying it's a $2 to $3 difference, basically.
So it's about $3, $4, different,
17
right?
to 18, yeah.
Yeah, so that becomes a lot more interesting, right? Because Game Pass is, I think if I remember correctly, it's about 200, 300 games.
Yeah, something like that.
Where PlayStation Plus is like 800, 900. And I would argue, not as the PlayStation guy, but the back catalogue of PlayStation games for a new player that hasn't played on PlayStation or Xbox before is of higher value.
There's a lot more third-party titles. There's a lot more.
And that is true. You are getting
all the old Assassin's Creeds, for example, something like that. Like they're all on there. You don't have that on Game Pass.
They're also on PlayStation Plus through the Ubisoft Classics collection, right? So I think, and to be fair, a lot of the Bethesda stuff's on there too. Like all the Doom, like I downloaded both Dooms are on there. Like it does become a lot interesting, right? Because then all of a sudden, like Uncharted's on there, Last of Us on there, God of War's on there, Horizon's on there, Bloodborne's on there.
But they're all on PC.
yeah. And there's the Final Fantasy games are on there, 7 remakes on there. All of a sudden, that does become a bit more of a comparison, right? Like Sony might be sitting there and going, "Oh, hold on, our service has what $300-400 more, 300 more games. We're $4 a month cheaper."
They might be
we're
thinking,
probably sitting.
Well, hang on,
we're sitting pretty sweet.
Our middle
or we're going to bump up our price.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then Ultimate and Premium are a completely different sphere. I think
Premium Deluxe. They've got the
Premium Deluxe.
Yeah, well, they've got the trials. They've got the
trials, PS3 stuff, streaming for Premium anyway. So I think they're different. Like Ultimate is the better. Like if you're going to either be on Premium or Ultimate, I think Ultimate you can make a bit more of a case of, even though it's slightly more expensive, you're getting Day One and Call of Duty and that. Get that.
I think Day One is enough, really.
Yeah, that's enough. But Microsoft have kind of put themselves in a position they weren't before, where there was no comparison between PlayStation Plus and Game Pass.
Now they've fallen back in line.
Now they've kind of fallen back in line and slightly under. Where before they didn't. That's kind of what I was saying when I was saying I was surprised they were doing it, because it's probably another example of the rake being stepped on, right? Where it's like really, really, really good showcase, bang. This has happened. Price has gone up, and we're taking them off day and day. So that is the piece I'm kind of hanging on. Is more that it's like, it's like, for instance, if McDonald's and Hungry Jack's, right, 2 burger chains, relatively the same thing, and say McDonald's say, "Well, we're no longer doing beef burgers, we're doing chicken." It's like, well, the other way around, right? It would be like if KFC and McDonald's, were two separate things, and KFC said, "Oh, hold on, we're not doing chicken anymore, we're just doing beef." So, well, we've already got a beef. Like, we've already got something
Yeah.
comparable.
I was like, where are you going with this?
Well, it might be the
I'm
flu
guessing you
talking.
haven't eaten at like either of those joints in a while.
I don't often. No. But yeah, it's just I found it interesting that you would kind of take the one thing that you had it as an advantage, and then align it back. Some might argue the Nintendo subscription service has higher value, right? You're getting a back catalog of.
Oh no,
Well, there's some really good stuff in there.
I can't argue that. Like Nintendo are catching up, and especially for value wise, they're $30.
It's cheap.
Yeah, $30 a year, 100%.
Yeah.
That's great. And you can pay an extra, I think it's like $40 or $50, and you get like the
For the
map
family
packs
plan.
for the map packs for Mario Kart, or you get the Animal Crossing extra stuff. Like, yeah, that's there, and they've got the retro things that you can also get as part of the expansion pack. But even still, that's quality, but that's because, and we've spoken about this last week, that's Nintendo quality. That's Nintendo first party stuff. You're not getting third party games on that service.
No, you're not getting.
It's pure first party games. No launch or anything, but we're talking about games that came out in the 90s. Right? Yeah. We're talking about 30-year-old games now.
Yeah.
So, like...
it's just... I thought that was
different.
interesting.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that they've kind of aligned themselves back for no reason besides their choosing, right? Like, they didn't have to do it this way. So, yeah.
I guess that now puts the pressure on Xbox to really showcase why people should be getting Game Pass Ultimate, because that's obviously their push out of all of them. That's the major difference that they've got to any other subscription that's close by, which is PlayStation Plus. They need to have that catalog of games that's going to push people to get this service so they can play these games day one. And so this is where
they've got a good roadmap. Like
they've
Indiana
got a great
Jones,
roadmap.
Avowed, Call of Duty. Like there's
Fable.
So much coming. Yeah.
They've got a lot there. But is that going to be enough? Well, only time will tell, I guess. We'll find out in the next 6 months' time as to whether or not it's, well, in the next 2 months' time, actually, when the changes do come in. That I think that first week is going to be a case of, okay, so what's the drop-off?
Yeah.
Although it's probably not the first week. You're probably going to see it a month later because, people have their monthly subscriptions or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I reckon a month later.
I think you're going to look at it, say, January. Like, after Call of Duty.
Oh, you reckon?
People settled in. Where is it at?
You reckon people will sit on it from September, October, etc. for Call of Duty, and then you want to see after Christmas? Because I feel like
what they
go on.
They might drop a few back catalog games there,
They're
right?
they're gonna have to.
People will play. You can't play online unless you got Ultimate, right? So, unless you're going to do the core essential combo.
Yeah.
So there's that too, and I think there's enough coming out where it's like, it's worth keeping. I think what's interesting is when we go into next year, how many people joined when Call of Duty launched,
and over Christmas as well,
and how many of those people have stayed? We're never going to find out that information.
No.
The only bit of data we're ever going to be able to glean is maybe Call of Duty sales through American.
Oh yeah, the sales of Call of Duty is going to be huge. Yeah. That's going to be a big indicator.
Yeah, which again, that might not even show too much data because most of the time Call of Duty sells more on PlayStation and PC. So it's kind of like we might not really be able to tell anything, right? We might just still sell the same. There might be people on Game Pass that will just buy Call of Duty just to have it because they buy it every year. Like there's all these different like things that could happen that will kind of muddy the numbers that I think that we may never know. We'll know when there's another price increase or another change. That's when we'll know.
It'd be nice if these sorts of figures came out, but it's in their interests not to tell us.
Not
really.
to.
Yeah.
No. And that's the thing I've always gone back to, right? Like the Game Pass value proposition's always been there. And whenever they had said in the past that it's sustainable or all that, the calculation I felt never included the fact that they have to now make the games, not just sell the games. They have to account for the 1,000 developers making Call of Duty. You know what I mean? Like it's not as simple as game would have sold X amount if we sold it a la carte. Now it's selling less, but now we've got Game Pass subscribers. It's not that. If you look at it on that ratio, it might be net positive and it might be sustainable. They're saying, well, we're selling slightly less, but we're getting more subscribers.
But how many years did it take to make with how many staff?
What about the $300 million you spent making the game? Where does that go?
And the marketing.
Yeah, all that, right? Like, yeah. I think we've beaten the drum enough. But
Yeah, I
any
think so.
chance for me to say, I told you so 4 years ago, I'll do it. So just be prepared to hear that a
All
few more
right,
times.
okay. Well, we will wrap up the Xbox Game Pass talk, and hopefully
Yeah,
we don't have to talk about it for another couple of months. But
hopefully
you
not.
never know with Xbox. The last thing I did want to mention before we do get to the close of the show is that, and this is Activision, so it's still technically in the realm of Xbox, but there is a rumor that Crash Bandicoot 5, which was in development by Toys for Bob, who did the Spyro trilogy and Crash trilogy and Crash 4 and all that, apparently has been cancelled. Now, Toys for Bob did initially, like, there was a period of time before, I think it was Crash 4, that they were working on Call of Duty Warzone. They were part of, all the conglomerate that was working on Call of Duty. Then they were able to branch off and make, the trilogies and Crash 4 and all that. They were making Crash 5. Apparently, it's been cancelled, though. You heard anything else, Josh, about it?
Bit of a weird one, right? Like, because they came across after the acquisition, and then Microsoft allowed them to go independent, which is interesting. I think a relatively good move. But to hear that, Crash 5 was in development and didn't happen is interesting. Like, I think the news came out that Crash 4 had sold around 5 million copies, which is incredible for what it is. And then I think the Crash collection sold upwards of like 20 million copies,
Yeah.
which there is the nostalgia of those first three games, right? And Crash isn't what he was back then. But even 5 million copies of Crash 4 is pretty impressive for what would have been a relatively cheap game. I don't know. This again goes kind of back to the double talk of like, we need smaller games with prestige. We need this and that. Well, it's like, no, you don't. You just want Call of Duty and some of the big stuff. So this is disappointing. I think Crash 4 was great. I really enjoyed it. So it's a shame to see this one kind of.
I've got a little update
happen.
as well. So apparently the news around Crash 5 getting cancelled was that a former Toys for Bob character and illustration artist by the name of Nicholas Cole, he actually said that a new IP at the studio had been cancelled after 3 years of development, despite internal attempts to save it. So apparently it was being developed under the code name Project Dragon, but it was not
Spyro.
a Spyro game.
I always wondered why those two worlds didn't just merge. I want to do imagine that.
Yeah.
Crash, Spyro,
they did that.
Merge the two.
They did that.
Yeah.
On the Game Boy Advance.
Like a
it was
proper
Crash Fusion, Spyro Fusion.
Yes, I do remember there was the two versions of it. But
go on.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say that's because there was the Spyro 4 tease in the Crash Bandicoot art book, which I think I've got over there. So there was that. But now that's what's interesting. Like the news that came out after Toys for Bob split from Microsoft was that Microsoft's partnering with them to publish the next game. So, which would make sense that it isn't Crash because Crash is still owned by Microsoft. Toys for Bob wouldn't own it.
Well, Microsoft still has a publishing agreement with them.
Yeah, but
you need to get off.
It's just a bit of a weird one. But in my eyes, 5 million copies for Crash 4 is a success. So.
Yeah. Well,
I look, it's a shame, but
we also heard. So we heard Project Dragon was not Spyro, but also here's the quote. But someday folks will hear about the Crash 5 that never was, and it's gonna break hearts.
Yeah.
So that's why people are thinking that. Well, apparently it's meant Project Dragon was not Crash, but there was a Crash 5 that was cancelled after 3 years of development. Well, not Crash 5, but there was a game cancelled after 3 years of development. So anyway, it's interesting because you'd think that, especially with the hype around Astrobot, which I think has mostly come from us, as well as Game Pass needing these sorts of smaller games to kind of not stay sustainable, but we've now got price increases and all that. Yeah,
just keep people in.
You want people to come in every month. If you have an off month, that's the month that people cancel. If you have them, and basically I hate this because it's almost predatory, but if you're drip feeding these sorts of games, 1 or 2 a month or something like that, that's the way to keep people on Game Pass.
I might as well stay. Crash is here. I might as well stay. Indiana Jones is out. Oh, Call of Duty's here. That's how they get you. But Yeah, yeah, it's just an interesting kind
Yeah,
of decision, right?
exactly. But just as we've said, like, they can drip feed all that sort of stuff as much as they want. Doesn't mean that it's going to be sustainable. And then you've got to think about the development cycles. This game was cancelled after 3 years. So, that's 3 years of paying staff to work on a game that will not be released. So that's basically money down the drain.
Yeah, and they'd be able to claim maybe a third of that back through tax write-offs, and that's what
sure,
they.
yeah.
Yeah, but still, it's still a portion of
It's
money.
the principle
spent.
of the thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I agree, man.
anyway, we are going to wrap up our episode today. Firstly, Josh, you're still playing Elden Ring, aren't you?
Yeah, still making my way. I think I'm about 16 hours through. About that on Elden Ring. Loving it. Like, it's just I won't spend any more time talking about it, but you got to play it. I think we have to set this as we need a segment where it's like, I tell you what to play. Yeah, every quarter I recommend you one game that you must play. And then you must play that in that quarter, and then we recap it. It kind of goes back to the origins of busy playing something.
Yeah, where we had brought the game in and we had like a couple of weeks to play it or something.
But
I
think
had to procure it first.
Yeah, I think we revert back to just me telling you what you need to play.
Me telling me all the games that I've missed, and they're all like PlayStation games or like the big games that I've just like, I'd rather play Pokemon Yellow again.
No.
Well, actually, funnily you mentioned that. So I'm in the process of trying to get some money together to upgrade my PC. So for those of you listening and watching at home, you might realize that these shows aren't actually live, and that's because my computer can't take it. I don't
know how to do it.
Yeah, I get the errors every day about how my C drive has like 4 megabytes remaining in space, which is not a lot, by the way, Josh.
Tax time's coming up, so hopefully you can get some.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping, but basically I need to either wipe this computer and start fresh, which I really don't want to do, considering it's like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old computer. So I'm gonna have to build one from scratch, and then I'm looking at doing the streaming thing. So that's probably when I'm gonna go Elden Ring and die 60,000 times before I finish the first boss. But we'll see how we go. At the moment, I'm just playing my nice easy games like Pokemon Yellow and Mario Tennis Ultra Smash on the Wii U. I've got to finish some of those exclusives.
As you do.
Yeah, 100% you do. Otherwise, the Wii U's going to die, man. I told you weeks ago. It's going to happen.
I feel like I'm going to die. I'm just looking at my face. My God, I look like trash.
You got to put your lights on. You got to have like a little light in front of you.
Yeah, I know. I do need to get the ring light. You know what? We'll get it sorted. You get a PC that works, and then I'll get a ring light. All right?
Jeez. Yeah, $15
Let's
it
just
came
remember,
up,
we started off with my camera being wonky with no video game merchandise behind me. I at least have some things going on now. So there's that. And my camera's straight.
Yeah, that's good. Mine's, I don't know, everything's messy. My monitors are not lined up. I need to like fix everything up. This was all temporary, and now it's not. I need to fix it. Anyway, that's enough for today. So this has been Busy Playing Something, episode 8 for 2024. I have been your host, Sean, joined as always with Josh. Don't forget you can find us on all social media, so you can find us here on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe the video, and actually tell us your thoughts about Game Pass and what it means to you. For some of you, it might mean nothing. It might just be, yep, same old, you're paying a little bit extra. For others, I don't know, turn on the caps lock and see what happens. You can also find us on Twitter/X. Elon Musk actually put a tweet out.
I saw that.
The poll? The poll to like rename it back to Twitter. It's like, you are a child. Anyway, so you can find me at Holy DePrawn. You can find Josh at Joshua LaRosa. Make sure you do check out Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. And do we have Google Podcasts yet?
No, YouTube Music is launching, I think it was this month. So we will be moving to that as well as Apple and Spotify. But for the moment, it's just Apple and Spotify.
All right. We'll be doing all that. And also you can like all the shorts that I'm doing here on YouTube. I'm doing all of them. It's a lot of work. Anyway.
He does all the work. I just talk on.
I just grab your quotes and say, yeah, see, Josh is doing all the talking in the podcast, and I'm just sitting there nodding or like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
Wrap it up, Josh. Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Well, speaking of wrapping up, I am going to wrap it up. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the episode. And Josh, do you have any final things that you want to mention? We've got PS3 backwards compatibility potentially coming already, so you need to think of something new.
Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay out of the cold if you're in Melbourne.
Yeah, I was going to say, where's the Vita 2?
We'll see. Could come.
Where's the Xbox Vita?
Vita means life. There you go.
Okay, now,
Goodbye.
where's the Xbox handheld? All right, see you later, guys.